The key issue with doing a buyout is that the parties need to agree on a price for their home. The buyer would, obviously, like the price to be lower, and the seller would, of course, like the price to be higher. If you skipped over the previous video on selling the home, I recommend that you go back to it, print off the worksheet, and follow the steps to decide on a price for the home before continuing on with this video. These steps work whether you're selling your home or doing a buyout and are an essential part to settling on a price. Sometimes couples agree on a price that's different than an appropriate price for the true value of the home. As long as you agree on this and both parties feel adequately informed about making the decision, then that's okay. Before we get into some number crunching examples, I'd like to address the idea of including resale home costs in the value for the buyout. Sometimes the person who is buying the home out from the other party wishes to add the potential costs of selling the home one day into the buyout equation. This might include costs such as real estate commission and legal fees. Depending on where you live, this may not be legally permitted. So be sure to check into your local laws governing this aspect of divorce and separation. Getting into the arguments for and against including these fees goes beyond the scope of this course. However, if you want to do your own research, there are plenty of helpful articles online. Sometimes there's a fee for breaking a mortgage or remortgaging to do a marital home buyout. In this situation, the parties may agree to split the costs to this fee since it's the result of the marital breakdown. Okay, and now for the calculations you've been waiting for. Figuring out a buyout is usually pretty straightforward. You take the agreed upon price for the house and subtract that from whatever is outstanding on the mortgage for your house. Let's say John and Patricia agree that their house is going to be valued at $500,000 and that the mortgage remaining is $250,000. The difference between the value of the home and the mortgage is the equity that's built up in the home, and it's worth $250,000. To have exclusive title on the home, John needs to buy out Patricia's half of the equity, or $125,000. In order to pay the other party, most people need to include the buyout amount in the remortgaging of the home. Using John and Patricia's example again, we see here that there's still $250,000 left on the mortgage. John will be assuming this by virtue of the buyout, and he will also have to add an additional $125,000 onto the mortgage so he can pay Patricia her half of the equity, the $125,000. John's new mortgage will be somewhere around $375,000, but he will also own the full value of the equity now, the $250,000. As you can see, doing a marital home buyout can put a person into an increased lot of mortgage debt, and it's critically important that the buyer assess if they can actually afford to do this. Remember, the bank will often lend people more than they can actually comfortably afford. This can make a person house poor, as we discussed in video 1 of this module. We will go over the numbers again in the equalization video, so don't panic if this is starting to feel a little overwhelming. Go over the part we just did with a calculator or a pen and paper and see for yourself how the calculations are done. If you know your own numbers, you can insert them into the formulas and get the value for your buyout. Before we wrap up this video, I'm going to give you an example of what a buyout clause might look like in an agreement. So the section would be Marital Home. 1.1. On the signing of this agreement, Patricia will transfer her interest in the matrimonial home to John for $125,000. John will pay the cost of the preparation and registration of the transfer. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to grab your copy of my indispensable resource for writing your own separation agreement, the definitive sourcebook of family law separation agreement clauses. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.